I was just in Asheville this past weekend.
Oh, nice.
So it was the first time I had gone there. I don't know the area like that at all, but I know I was in downtown. And what was funny is that I did not know how liberal Asheville is.
Oh, it's insane. It's
Yeah.
like a completely different place
Yeah,
than
it's more
everything
liberal
else
than
around.
than Charlotte. Well, I would
Yeah.
say a good portion of Charlotte is because I figured that being closer to the mountains, my impression was that it would be probably a bit of both, but
Yeah.
maybe one over the other. But no, this is like a huge overtake
Yeah.
of liberalism, which I'm not against at all. I have nothing against it at all. In fact, I thought it was liberating in a lot of ways too. No pun intended. But when I was walking, it was my wife, myself, my wife, two of our good friends were walking. Don't know the area very well, but we were at some restaurant, and right across there's a little like mini park, and there are people just playing the
Playing
bongos.
bongos.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, yeah,
They do
yeah,
that like literally every Friday.
yeah.
It's every because I went to Asheville for the first time a couple years ago for the Asheville Comedy Festival, and they're
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, there'll be the bongos playing." And I think COVID was like the first time where they took a Friday off in like 40 years.
Really?
Yeah, like it was like some insane thing because Asheville's fun because it is like it's like hyper liberal, and it's
Yeah,
like, and then you drive 20 minutes outside of it, and it's not at all. But it's like this.
yeah,
It's almost seems like the type of place where like even for like a smaller city that's usually more liberal than the suburbs around it, it seems like it's like a destination where like liberal people that want to live in the South move to, where it's like,
yeah,
oh, we'll move down to Asheville
yeah.
and have this. They've got this whole artistic vibe and community. Do you live near Asheville? Like, is that the part of North Carolina you're in, or
No,
where are you at?
I live just outside of Charlotte. So I live in Gastonia. So
Okay,
it's literally like I'm not sure how I compare. You've been up to Northern Virginia, have you before?
yeah, yeah,
It's
that's
the
where I live
equivalent of
at. Yeah,
you live in what, in Arlington right now, or
yep, in Arlington right now. Yep.
oh, what part of Arlington?
I'm in the Douglas Park area, so I'm in South Arlington. So like
Oh, okay. I know what you're
so
talking
I'm
about.
not
Nearby
at,
Four
yeah,
Mile Run.
yep. So I'm in like the area where there's like it's a little bit more diverse than the rest of Arlington, and it's like we
Hmm.
got like a lot of families around us that have been here for like, it's not where the yuppies that live, like the young professionals aren't really in
Or up in like Roslyn and
Ballston and
yeah,
Roslyn. Yep,
yeah.
exactly.
So I used to grow up near there. I grew up right off of just before 495 on off of Columbia Pike,
Okay.
old Courthouse Boulevard. So that apartment complex out there, just literally just outside the exit. So, and I actually went to. It's funny because there's a whole backstory behind this, but I used to go to a school called Patrick Henry Elementary. I forgot what
Okay.
street it was on, but it wasn't far from where I lived at that time. And I went there as a kid for I think maybe a year, maybe a little bit little less than that, but I think it was a year. And then one day I literally got up to go to school, and the bus that would pick me up at a completely different spot, literally right in front of the door where I walk out when we walk out of the building to go into the parking lot. And it was a bus that was taking me to Drew Model Elementary. I don't know if it's there anymore now, but it's deep in South Arlington,
Yeah.
and it took me to the school. And I never questioned. I might have been 5 years old. I never questioned it. I just thought it was just a
Yeah.
field trip. And it wasn't until years later, I don't know why I didn't think about asking at the time, but I asked my mom, why did I ended up going to this school, Drew Model, when Patrick Henry was my school? They were like, well, you were taking these tests and you were failing miserably. So they discovered that you had a learning disability. So they didn't have a program at that school to
So they
help
just send you
kids.
to another one.
They sent me
Damn.
to an LD school, kind of literally out of the blue, but I
Damn.
had no idea. And then when I moved to Falls Church with the family, uh, they had an LD program out there. So
Okay.
virtually all my classes were all LD. And
Okay.
I was so naive and so ignorant to that. I didn't really know the difference because what I grew up from going to Drew Model Elementary School, that was all I knew at that point. And so it was
Yeah.
just normal for me at that time. So, my mom revealed that to me, I think over 10 years ago. And I was like, why didn't you just tell me when I was like 5? She's like, well, I didn't think you knew
Yeah.
how to handle it. And I was like, well, I was too
That's,
stupid to know the difference. So what difference would it
yeah.
make?
Yeah. I was at if I wasn't able to piece it together, I think I would have been able to handle you telling me. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So but that was deep in South Arlington. And I remember I'll never forget the first time I went there because my uncle used to live there too. He doesn't live there anymore now, but there was a sign that I remember that said, and no drugs allowed at this mechanic shop that was
Yeah.
just up the road. And you had to get past that road and up to this little windy road, I think, if I recall correctly, would lead you into to Drew Model, and it felt like I was going to like, I don't know, the hotel in the Shine, because it was literally kind of like this swerving road that was all
Yeah.
behind this building. So yeah,
Did
but
you
Arlington,
ever, when you were there, did you ever eat at the Weenie Beanie?
I think once,
Yeah.
once.
Yeah, I go there quite a bit. I like
It's still
that.
there now.
It's yeah, there's one still in Arlington. It's like it's it's crazy. It's still, it looks so old and
Yeah,
run
yeah, yeah.
down, and like it's a cool spot though. Yeah, the Weenie Beanie.
Is the food still any good? Because I remember I tried it once. I liked it, but I never went back.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's like I mean it's like it's similar type of food to like what they have at like at a cookout restaurant. Like it's that type
Mm.
of like where we've got hot dogs and burgers, and they've also got some wings, and the hot dogs are pretty good. And they
Yeah, I
say
remember
that's where they
liking them.
invented like the half smoke sausages, and that's pretty good.
Yeah,
But I was curious if you grew up around here, if you ever went, because it's been
yeah.
around apparently forever.
Oh yeah, it's been up for since I can recall. But yeah, and I'm not sure if is Bob and Nita still there on Columbia Pike.
Yeah, that's the so I live at the I live like a mile away from that.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm right off Columbia Pike
Yeah,
on like 13th, like off of
yeah, I
13th
know,
Street.
John. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I go there a lot. I was just there like 2 weeks ago with a couple comics. Yeah. There's Bob and Edith's all over, man. They've got like 7 or 8
Really?
now. Yeah,
What?
they're like it's a chain now.
Really?
But I think
Because
they're
there
all
used to be,
locally owned chains. Yeah.
yeah, there used to be one when I was growing up. I can't remember if it was when I was growing up and then I left, because I still went back to Arlington despite the fact that I moved there because I had family that's still out there. So I
Yeah.
was always there no matter what. But there used to be a Bob and Edith further down the road, like you're going towards Annandale on Columbia Pike, and it was right by it was nearby where there used to be a food store. Now I think it's a Harris Teeter, if I'm not mistaken,
Okay.
off of Columbia Pike. And there used to be a Bob and Edith there, and it was a much bigger location too. But for some reason, that location didn't last very long, and it shut down.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
weird because they've got the one that's on Columbia Pike, which is like the one I go to the most. I know
that's the
they have
main
one.
one. That was the one
Yeah,
that, yeah.
that's the main one, and they got one in Springfield, Virginia.
Are
I
you
think they
serious?
also, yes, they got one in Springfield now, and then
Holy
they're
shit!
Alexandria. They're all, and then there's like another one in the Crystal City part of Arlington. I think there's like 5 or 6. Uh,
Really?
yeah, the Crystal City one's like there's like one stretch in Crystal City. It's like one block that has like all these bars and restaurants, and
Yeah,
one of them
yeah.
is Bob's and Edith's.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Was that new
crazy.
that just opened up fairly
I
recently?
don't know. It looks newer than other ones.
Yeah.
So it looks really clean in there. The Columbia Pike one looks like an old
I
diner.
love it though. It has so
Yeah.
much character.
It's so good. I love it, man. It's
Yeah, so do I.
20. I love a 24-hour diner.
Oh, so do I. I miss Bob and Edith. I don't miss Northern Virginia all that much. I actually moved down from Northern Virginia with my wife and my kid back in 2016. And we've been wanting to get out of the air for quite some time.
Yeah.
But if there's a handful of things I do miss, honestly, is certain pockets of Arlington
Yeah,
and parts of
same
Falls
here.
Church too. Bob and Edith was one of them. That's my wife and I. We said I love you to each other the first time, literally right outside those
That
steps.
is awesome.
And then we went inside and ate there too. After
What a
that, yeah,
small world, man. I had no
yeah,
idea you were from up here. It's spent
yeah,
some time up here. That's crazy.
yeah.
Is
I grew up there.
Gastonia like Western North Carolina? Like, are you near Tennessee?
No, we're in the border of South Carolina.
Oh, right down there. Okay.
Yeah, it's literally just outside of. It's like the equivalent. Actually, no, I take it back. It's kind of like Annandale, what it is to
Okay.
Washington. It's kind
Okay.
of like that.
Okay, that's not bad.
And so yeah, I mean, there's literally a street like Lee High. I heard Lee Highway now it changed the street name at one point, I think, to something
Yeah.
else, which I forgot what it's called, because I had a friend of mine who still lives up in Falls Church visit me. And like I said, I haven't been back in there a couple of years, but he was telling me, yeah, Falls Lee Highway's now changed to something else because of the whole
Yeah.
thing. But with and I understand the circumstances,
Yeah,
but
it is still weird to see some of those old street names, because there's some that like there's some places that are still have like Jefferson Davis Highway.
Yeah,
And like and the other places are like, no, we've changed it. But it's still weird. You go to like some of the smaller towns and they'll still have like Jackson Street or Lee
Yeah,
Street.
Lee
It's like,
Highway,
oh
yeah.
yeah, we know who that's named after.
yeah. Well, it's funny though that so when I moved, I forgot what we're getting. Oh, we're talking about Asheville. So I forgot what the point I was trying to make here, but at any rate, so I know I think if I recall correctly, you're from the southern parts of the Virginia area. Is that right? Is that where
Yeah,
you're
I'm from like, it's like
nearby, like
technically
Blacksburg?
so that's where I went to school, but I'm
Oh,
like,
that's right.
so I'm like from I think it's technically Central Virginia, but it's like this really small place called Cartersville, Virginia, and it's like
I'm not
middle of
familiar.
nowhere. It's like
Yeah.
an hour outside of Richmond. It's an hour from Charlottesville. I went to
Oh, okay.
high school in this town called Farmville, Virginia. So that's kind of where I grew up, in like this just kind of a really rural, like Cartersville like has no stoplights. You know what I mean? Like it's
Really?
just that
Even to
yeah,
this day?
yeah, no stoplights, man. Just very
Really?
very small, super rural area.
Is there at least a stop sign out there?
Oh yeah, we got a couple stop signs,
Okay.
but no stoplights. Yeah, we got some stop signs, but no stoplights are. We don't have enough traffic for that.
Damn. Must be beautiful in that regard.
It's nice. We live like my mom. I grew up right on like the James River, so it's like
Okay.
so it's pretty. It's pretty awesome.
Do you miss it though?
It's weird. Like I go back enough that it's fine. There's like nothing to do there. So like I love my
Mhm.
family that's back there, and I'm glad that I grew up there. But it's like I I don't plan on moving back. I like living in a more city area. That's why I like Arlington, because it's like I can be right in a major city and do all the things I want to do,
Yeah.
and then also like be in a neighborhood, and like if I want to just kind of be in my house and walk around and not be in a major city, like there's parts of Arlington where I'm like, okay, this is nice. Like I can enjoy this. So
You know, the last time I actually went to Arlington, the biggest thing that I noticed, apart from like the whole Boston area, which I saw from when it was
yeah,
next to nothing when I was a kid growing up to what it is, at least at that point, from what it became this pretty, I don't know, kind of a bougie like place, if you will. But
it is. It's like so, dude. The Boston and like Roslyn and like that area is just like it feels so different than the rest
oh
of
yeah,
Arlington.
yeah.
It's insane.
I remember when I was a kid, I went trick or treating because I grew up in Arlington, and there were certain neighbors we were told not to go, and we're like, okay, no. I mean, that's the first week we went. We went to Roslyn. You know how many candy we got out of Roslyn
I
in that
can't
neighborhood
imagine, dude.
alone? It was fucking insane. And was it dangerous? I never felt the danger, but I could see why they'd say don't go near there
Yeah,
at night. I did see some things, but nothing to the point where it scared me to death to not want to come back.
yeah,
But it definitely was a different time at that point. But when I was growing up, I remember just seeing like literally one day, I just saw a construction sign that adding new, I don't know, something or other on into Boston Common Mall. Then the theater was added there, and then all of a sudden the ice rink was
yeah.
added there, and then the Capitals are practicing out of there. And I'm like, damn,
Crazy.
this was not like that 2 days ago. And there used
No,
to be I'm not sure if it's there anymore. There used to be a car. I forgot what dealership it was. It may have been a BMW or Mercedes right next to the Boston Common Mall. Is that still there?
I don't know. I don't. I'm not in that area very often.
Okay.
I'll go to Boston for like to see a movie. That's about it. I'll go to see a movie. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. It's just crazy. That whole area is just there's just going on, and there's like no parking, and it's like, man,
Yeah.
this is so much shit going.
Yeah. Yeah, but I honestly don't miss it. Like I did miss it in the beginning, just elements of it. But then as time has gone by, I'm like, man. Last time I went back to Virginia, Northern Virginia, I should say, I immediately wanted to leave right away. Like I just could not take it anymore. I don't know what it was, but I don't know. It's weird. But so what when you're up there now? I mean, you said you liked it though, but what is it about the city apart from you being in the area where you're kind of in the crux of everything, where you have access to go to point A to point B, being that DC is kind of more or less a hotspot, especially for comedy.
Yeah,
Apart from that, though, what else do you like about that area that makes you want to consider to be home for you, at least at this point?
yeah. I really like the main thing is just like how convenient it is for
Mhm.
comedy stuff. Like that's
Even
like
with
the
all the
number one
traffic?
thing. Yeah, because it's like even with the traffic, it's like I mean, like where I was living, it's like I would drive an hour to get to the closest show anyway. So it's like if I'm in the car for 30 minutes because of traffic, I don't. To me, that doesn't feel any different than an hour because it's like if I wanted to come to DC to do shows, I would have to drive 2.5 or 3 hours, and so it's like there's traffic everywhere, especially going to do that. And if you want to do the big shows, you have to be willing to like kind of deal with some of the downsides of the big cities. But Arlington is like I don't know. It's I like the convenience. I like that there's a bunch of cool museums. Like if I want to go to concerts, there's like a bunch of cool places. Like there's a lot of cool stuff to do. I like that it doesn't close super early. Like I can go do things at night if I want to. Like I can eat late at night. And there's just a bunch of also just really good restaurants in
Yeah, that's true.
Arlington
Yeah.
and DC and stuff. So there's just a lot to do. And it's just cool to be like, oh man, if I want to go catch a day game with the Nationals, it's just like I can just take the metro and go see a baseball game, and it's not like a whole ordeal. It's just like, oh, I'll park in Boston and I'll take the metro and and switch to the green line, and then I'm just at the ballpark, and then I'm like, okay, time to metro back to my car.
How do you feel like the sports the fanaticism for DC? Because I'll be honest with you, when I was growing up, I felt there were a lot of more bandwagon Skins fans, or not. They're not Skins anymore now. They're called what? They're
The Commanders.
Commanders now.
Yeah.
There were a lot more bandwagon fans out there than I felt really legitimate, hardcore, passionate fan. Do you feel like it's different now being around there? Are you starting to notice a little bit more legitimacy by the fanaticism, or it's just kind of like if they're doing really well, then all of a sudden everyone comes out and supports the team?
Yeah, so being like growing up in Virginia, it's like most of my friends were either Cowboys or like Skins fans anyway. So it's like I'm used to like seeing a bunch of like hardcore Skins and Commanders fans. I just think that the Commanders have just been so bad for so long. It really is hard to be like a fanatic for them, because I grew up a Commanders fan, so it's like I'm a I grew, you know what I mean, like
you say that now.
it is weird to say, but it's like that's what they're called. So it's like so I grew up a fan, and it's cool to be around here. I think there's more fanaticism for like there's more like I think pretty hardcore like national fans. It's like the baseball and the Caps, like the Washington Capitals.
Oh, yeah, you can't be a bandwagon to be a Caps fan. That I know for sure. I've been to a few Caps, and that is, oh my god, that's fucking awesome. I love it.
This same thing I think with the Wizards being terrible and the Commanders just being awful. It's like at least the Nats and the Caps have been good recently, so it's like a lot easier to see. Like the Nats games were fun to go to. I went to I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan, so I would go to I went to watch them play the Cardinals. I got to watch the Cardinals play them twice last year, and it was just kind of fun to be there. Just 2-day games, enjoying it. There's some real fans there, and pretty fun ballpark experience. It's a nice ballpark.
Do you watch? I'm sorry. Were you were around when the Nats won the World Series? Were you around?
That was the year before I moved up there, but I went to one of the games where they played the Cardinals in the playoffs. But yeah, when I would go up for shows, the energy around the city was like, it's just kind of nuts to just be in a city where like they're about to win a championship. Yeah, like it's just people are talking about it. People are stoked. It's like the games are affecting comedy shows because bars just want to have the games on for people to watch. And it's interesting because like, even if you're not a big baseball fan, but you love DC, like there's people that like know nothing about baseball, but when the Nats were like in the World Series, it's people freaking out, buying Nats clothes. And it's just, it's kind of crazy.
So you felt the aftermath of the Nats winning the World Series. It was still carrying over from that point too.
Oh yeah, dude. No. And just like, cause I would be up there a lot just doing shows, even though I didn't live up here. And so you would just be up here and it would just be like, everybody's talking about it. They'd be like, hey, the show's going to start 30 minutes late because the Nats game went into extra innings. And it's like, God damn it. I just want to do this show and go home. Like, yeah, we're going to start at 10. They're in the 10th inning right now. It's like, God, shit.
So is baseball your favorite sport?
I like college basketball, college football probably more, and then baseball, and then the NBA. NBA and baseball are tied, and then probably pro football, and then hockey, and then I played soccer forever, but I don't give a shit about soccer at all. Like I don't enjoy watching it. It bores the ever living shit out of me.
But you prefer playing it if you had a choice?
If my favorite sports to play were like soccer and basketball. I think those are the most fun. I think they're just the most fun to play. And,
but not to watch, at least for soccer for you.
Yeah, soccer. I love watching college basketball. That's so much.
Really?
Oh my god. Yeah, I love it. It's the best.
So college basketball being because you went to VTech, so that was your team. Has that always been your team since you were a kid, or just when you got to school?
My dad went to Tech, so I've always been a big Hokie, and then I only applied to 2 schools. I applied to Virginia Tech and Hampton-Sydney College, which is a small all-male private school that my brother went to. And then I just had to make the decision of which one to go to. And I was like, I guess I'll go to Tech. And, I'm glad I did it. Like I had a really fun time with some aspects of it. I would do a lot of it over if I could, but I'm proud of where I went, and it's fun. And I love Tech sports. So it's like, if nothing else, it's just kind of cool to be able to root for them.
How are they doing so far in terms of like the football team and the basketball team? Are they like, because I remember VTech at one point was like top tier.
Yeah, it used to be awesome at football. Yeah, it used to be awesome at football. Now we got a new coach. Yeah. I think that will be better this year. Yeah. But they've had a lot of work to do. It's like Tech was killer the entire time I was a kid, up until I was like Tech was awesome until I was like 20 years old. Just
Yeah.
great for my first 20 years of my life. And then I would say the last 10 to 11 years have been like undone a lot of the stuff. Like
Yeah.
the last 4 years of Coach Beamer and then all 6 years of Coach Fuente kind of undid all the good that the first 25 years of Beamer did. And then now we got a new coach. I like him, and we will see. And I grew up with Tech basketball sucking and being terrible. And now we've made 5 straight NCAA tournaments. We won the ACC tournament this year. We got a head coach I really like. So Tech basketball, yeah, we're more of a basketball school now than a
So
football school.
do you think that because of because you had that dynasty year of years, I'm going to say, where you guys were top tier team in the NCAA.
Yeah.
So coming off of having that high amount of success and then kind of derailing from there, did you feel like that at any point? I'm not sure if it's a fair question to ask, that you felt like, I don't know, man, is it even worth it for me now? Or do you see,
Oh, yeah,
or
no,
was your
there's
loyalty
no-
like, just, you know what, I don't give a fuck. These are my team and I'm going to
Yeah.
stick with them through thick and thin.
Oh yeah, no matter what. Yeah, I can't.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't break. I'll never. Yeah, if anything, I'll just the closest I would ever come to that in any sport. Because I don't believe in switching teams. I think you just use your team, and that's what you picked it, and that is the choice that I've made for. If anything, it's just like I'm a Commanders fan, and I won't tell anyone I'm not a Commanders fan, but I do not watch every game. Like I just will tune out. Tech basketball, I watched every game that wasn't blacked out. I watched, and when I was in Brooklyn doing shows, I went to the ACC tournament and I got to watch them beat Duke for the ACC title. So it's like I'll go. Yeah, like my thing is like the way I deal with it is it's like if my team sucks, I'm probably not going to watch as much. But I can't just be like, oh, I'm not a fan. I can't do it. It's too, yeah. It just feels, I don't know. I care too much about sports, I think, because most people are like, oh, it doesn't matter, but it matters so much to me.
I have a good friend of mine who grew up in Destin, Florida, which is like
Okay.
A skip away from Gainesville. So
Yeah.
he's a Seminoles fan.
Yeah.
And I was aware of the fanaticism that came with the college teams, especially with football and basketball. I'm talking about football right now. But when I met him, he was telling me, this guy has like tattoos of Florida State, everything, literally everything on his body was all Florida with some things here and there. And he even had the Seminoles logo like tattooed on his hand brilliantly. It was beautiful. So anyways, so he's telling me this whole, the whole college experience. Well, he never went to Florida, but he has gone to virtually every game that he could. But what he was telling me was that the college fans are way more loyal than NFL fans. And I was like, well, I didn't know that the culture. So I went to a ACC championship game when they were playing against Georgia Tech a number of years ago here in Charlotte.
Yeah.
So we drove down and we stayed at my uncle's place. We went to the game. That has got to be one of the most exciting games I've ever been to in my entire life.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was unfucking believable. Like that adrenaline, it's like second to none. I just remember just thinking like, I've never been to a more exciting game in my entire life.
Dude, it rules, dude. A college football game where like everybody's really into it is it's just weird because it's just like this mix of like, so if you're like a professional football fan, your team is like, you pick your team, it's whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's also more okay to like, oh, like I'm a Commanders fan, but I also like players that are on other teams. Like I like Russell Wilson. Like I like Tom Brady. You know what I mean? Like I respect them. Like, oh, this is great because people switch teams so much. But colleges, it's like you got people that like live in the area or like their family works for the school. So you grow up being a fan of the school. And then you've got all the alums and the college kids and the kids that want to go there. And then you just get the people that are just like, for whatever reason, just die hard. It's just something about the way, I don't know. I like college football because it feels like it's more about.
You think like it's a deep rooted like fanaticism because he told me the same thing.
Recruit.
Too. Yeah, well, that's the thing. But he was telling me that his family are like we're talking about Florida here, but Florida State. I meant to say he was talking about like it is embedded in you. Like it's either you have a choice, you don't. And even to the point where I don't know if it's like that for everybody now, but at the time for him growing up, he was telling me that anyone who in the family was a Florida fan, which is obviously their biggest rivals,
Yeah.
it was almost like they were being outed. They would not be allowed to join them in certain family gatherings. So I was like, is it really that bad? He's like, dude, I'm telling you, it is that severe. And I was like, that can't be serious. So he's telling me stories, and I'm like, I can't be like that with all college teams. But so I was giving him like all these like rival teams that I'm aware of here, and he was like, yeah, it's even worse with those guys too. I think he was telling me about Virginia Tech and Virginia. He's like, yeah, they have
Oh
it
yeah,
just
dude, I
bad.
hate UVA.
Yeah, yeah.
I got yeah, it's like I got a lot of good friends that went there. I started comedy in Richmond and did a ton of show. I do a ton of shows in Charlottesville. Like that
Mm.
became like my second home for comedy. But I still like even doing that. I hate UVA. I don't. I want them to lose every game. It's my two man. Yeah, man. My dad taught me my two favorite teams are Virginia Tech and whoever's playing UVA. That is like that's it, dude. I had no choice, man. I have, and it's just I don't know. It's plus I just love the recruiting aspects. What's crazy is because it's just like these are kids playing sports.
Yeah.
So it's like the coaches are going into these. It's also easy to be a fan when it's like a coach is coming to your high school
Yeah.
and signs your friend to come to the school, and now it's like, dude, all his friends are going to be rooting for Tech, man, because they're the ones that picked him up. It's not like there's it's not like the NFL where it's like, it's a business. So it's all money, all stuff like that. It's a business transaction. People switch teams. Colleges, it's like you stay on the team, you can transfer, but that happens a lot more now than it used to. But it's like, for the most part,
You mean
most
like
people
transfers like from one college team
one
to the
school to
other team?
another. Yeah.
They
So
actually do that now?
yeah, dude, there's a lot. They have this
I didn't
thing
know
called
that.
the transfer portal now, which is like it's a
Huh.
lot easier because it used to be when you transferred, you would have to sit out a year. And they don't really do that anymore. It's like
When
you
did
could
that
just
change?
like a few years ago. So it's like, so you'll see a lot more players switching and stuff if they're not getting the playing time that they want, or if someone, like if you're like a fourth year senior and you've graduated from another school, you'll transfer to a better school to try to get noticed for the NFL. Where you've like, I've given 4 years to this school. I'm going to be a fifth year senior, so I'll get my graduate degree at, let's say, like Ohio State, and I've got a better chance of being seen and being in high profile games and
Go
stuff.
to
So you'll see,
Michigan.
yeah, shit like that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I love it, man. Yeah, but I just grew up hearing my dad gave me no choice, and like any of the only teams I picked were like I had to pick an NBA team because my dad wasn't a big NBA fan, so I picked the Phoenix Suns when I was like 10 or 11.
Why them?
Because I just like loved their uniforms. I thought the orange and the purple were so pretty, and then like I started rooting for them, and then after a year or two, they were terrible when I first liked them, and then after a year or two, they got Steve Nash, and then I was like, oh yeah, this is great. Steve Nash rules. I love this so much, and so I've been stuck with them, even though they were terrible for 10 the last 10 fucking years before like the last two, and then I picked a hockey team. I picked the St. Louis Blues because I needed a hockey team, and we
You didn't
were
go for the
out.
Caps?
Hell no. No, man. I just no. I was like, I need a hockey team. I knew so many people that liked the Caps, and like I wasn't a big Ovechkin fan at the time. Like I just was like, whatever. So we were in St. Louis for Cardinals games because my dad grew up Cardinal fan, so we didn't have a choice in that. And then I was trying to pick a team, and I was like, oh, I love the Blues uniforms. Those are really cool. And I started to do some research and saw that they'd never won a championship before. Because when I'm picking a new team, I don't want to pick a team that's like
Established and has
yeah, like you know what I mean. Like I don't want to pick the Oilers or like the Penguins or something like that. So I was like, I'll pick a team that hasn't won one before, and I kind of felt the same way with the Suns. They hadn't won a championship either, and still haven't. Yeah, but the ones I didn't have a choice for was like Commanders, Cardinals, and Hokies. Even if I think if I had gone to another college, I would still root for Virginia Tech as well. Like if I had gone to, like if I had gone to I would have never applied to any other school in the ACC. So I'd have to like pick a school that would never play Tech. But like if I went to like Michigan State, I would probably root for Michigan State football and Virginia Tech. Like it just would be like it's too ingrained in my brain.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I'm absolutely brainwashed when it comes to sports. I got the thought of rooting for another team like almost makes me sick to my stomach.
Are you?
I can't. I did. The thought of like having to root for like UVA for something makes me want to throw up. That is unreal.
Are you one of those fans that like if the team loses that it would ruin your day?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
can't be around people that like, man,
No, I
get
can
the
be
fuck
around
away from me,
people.
nothing like that.
No, I can be around people, but I will be complaining. I'm the type of person where it's just like
Mm.
if we went to a game together and you didn't really care about either team,
Mm.
but you started rooting against the team I was rooting for, I would get so angry because
Really?
I'd be like, they're doing this on purpose. There's no reason.
Does
Like
that
if you
happen
went,
often?
no, it's weird. It doesn't happen often because I
Okay.
warn people. Because I went with a couple other comedian friends, and we went to when we went to the ACC tournament, and we were watching. I got to see two games. I got to see that was the best. I got to see Notre Dame versus Tech, and then I got to watch North Carolina beat the dog shit out of UVA. So like I got to see both. I got to watch Tech win, and then I had to miss the next night, and then I watched the championship. But I went with two comedian friends, and I was like, hey, here's the deal. You don't have to root for Tech, but it's like, I know you guys didn't go to Notre Dame. I know you're not Notre Dame fans. And I know you guys don't really like college basketball. You cannot actively root for Notre Dame while we're at this game. I was like, it will make me furious. I was like, because they're just like, I don't know. Because it's just like, if you don't care, then why not root for the team that your friend likes? You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
so what happens if I'm with you? Because
yeah,
I mean, I grew up around Hokie fans. I really have.
yeah,
But I was never a fan to begin with. I
that's
was
okay.
just casual. But if I'm in the room with you, we're watching a game and Notre Dame is playing against VTech, and I'm thinking to myself, I love that movie Rudy. I love that.
I would be
film.
like, what is the fucking wrong with you? I'd be like, you're picking because of a movie. I'd be like,
I
I'm your
love that movie
friend.
so
I was
much.
like, I am your friend. You care more about this movie
I
than
love
our
that movie.
friendship.
It's so inspirational. Well, give me one film that VTech has done that is so inspirational, just as Rudy. Then I'll probably root for that team as well.
If you're basing your sports things on inspirational movies,
only under this
come
context here though, but I'm just saying though, like that would
me.
be my perception, at least at that time.
Oh,
But if I'm in the room with you and I'm telling you I'm rooting for Notre Dame, man, I love Rudy, and honestly, I love the team's history as well too. I know more about that team than I do about VTech. So sorry,
I'd be like, you're a bad friend. I would be like, you're a bad friend. Like, you have no vested interest in this at all. You want to see your friend upset. But here's the thing: if someone like you grew up a fan, or you're an actual fan of that, like, like if it was the type of thing where like you went to UVA and I went to Tech, I could watch the game with you, and we could root against each other, and I'm fine with it. It's my brain is just like, you can't. My brain is purely like, I grew up with friends that would think it's funny to root against whatever, and they just
I wouldn't do it to get a rise out of you. Like I would, in my position, it would generally come from a spot that I know the history of Notre Dame, mainly because of what I saw in the film. Did my research, like this team has a strong history. So in that perspective, for me, that's where I would probably have the most connection to. VTech, in my opinion, I never had that connection at all. Quite frankly, I never really cared for it. Not because I didn't care for the team. I just didn't really care for it.
I'm just so disappointed in this.
But I'm just saying though, like that would be how I would approach it. Now, I will be honest though. If I was in the room with you and we're watching a college game and it's Florida State versus VTech, I would root for Florida State because I actually am a fan of.
But that's
Florida
fine.
State.
If you're like actually a fan of it, I just am like.
But I'm not a hardcore fan by any means.
But see, I just grew up like with friends that would think it's so funny when your team would lose, because I would think it's funny too. So you would just do that, and it would just be like, you can't. It would be nothing annoys me more than just being like, just like rooting against me because I care, and it's like, fuck you. It's like, fuck you, man.
And I would get you to pay the tab too once we're done.
I'd be like, fuck this. What is this bullshit?
Well, but
I'm not a sore winner. So like, if my team won, I don't rub it in people's faces. I'm not like.
You sure honestly, you don't do that?
I really do not. Okay. I do not do that.
Even against UVA fans.
No, I don't rub it in anyone's face. No, other than like light joking around with close friends. I'm never like as soon as the game ends, I'm never like, fuck you. Like, I can't do that. That's too mean, because I know how I would feel. I don't do a ton of shit talk during the game. Like, I don't talk shit. I'm just like clapping and cheering, and I'll get pumped up when something happens. But it's never like, oh, we're gonna kick your ass. Oh, you guys suck. I don't do that. I think.
Have you ever been emotional in a game where you actually cried?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not laughing to make fun of you. I'm not laughing.
What are we talking about here?
No, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just asking because I honestly picture you as a guy that would.
I cried in Brooklyn when Tech won the ACC tournament. I cried like a month ago.
I'm picturing you like how you cry. Like I'm honest. I'm thinking like, are you like the river cry? Tear.
No, not
cry,
for that.
Or are you one of those guys
do.
that single teardrop that's like that that's kind of like the clapping.
Mine's more like misty eyed and just like kind of taking in the moment and like what. Like, don't get me wrong. Other things, I'll absolutely bawl my eyes out and cry. Right. I mean, I was at the AC tournament. Tech has never won the ACC tournament. The only way we were going to get into the NCAA tournament this year was if we won it. It's in mine, it's all the stuff where it's like, I'm like, man, I went here. This is my school. My dad went to this school. And it's like, how cool would my dad have thought this moment would be? And I've been thinking about how much he would have loved it. And then I'm just like, just getting choked up and just misty eyed. And like before every Tech football game, they play Metallica's Enter Sandman. And it's just like the people jumping up and down and just that anticipation for 70,000 people to just be emotionally charged and ready to have a good time. Yeah. It just, I don't know. I'm a pretty emotional guy, but yeah, I've absolutely cried because of sports.
But you never actually like bawled out like, my God, my life is amazing.
No, like
that. Okay.
No,
I've seen that before too. It looks kind of odd to be honest with you, but yeah, I guess it just depends on the person for my.
I mean, like, I don't even think I really cried when I played sports. Like when we lost like a big game or something, I would be like, I would be upset and probably same thing, a little misty eyed or whatever. But yeah, the actual bawling I can't do. It doesn't really do it for me, but yeah, the emotions and like trying to hold back the tears about like, this is all, because I don't want to be like I don't want to be the grown man crying at a game where children are playing each other. Like, it's like I'm watching children play a sport and I'm crying. It's like, it's pathetic, but I do it.
Oh my God, that's so fucking funny. So okay, so I'm gonna give you a hypothetical, and I'm just curious to hear your thought. So what would it take for you to really like just bawl into tears? Because I've seen some people who have cried in sporting events that like you think they lost they would lost like a relative, or they probably had won the lottery and everything had changed for them. Like there's something about that connection that I just the only team that I really love, and I'm talking about love with a passion, is Chelsea FC. They're a soccer team or football team out in Europe. I love that team. Yeah, I could see myself crying. Yeah, I can see myself crying if I was at an actual, Premier League game and they have to win this one game to win the Premier League, or if they were going to win a Champions League game. Being there, I think I would cry.
Yeah, and that's a team that I've picked too. That's my Premier League team. I'm a Chelsea.
Really, Chelsea?
Yeah, I'm a Chelsea fan. So seriously. It's like, but that's my that's the sport I care the least about. I'm a Chelsea fan for Premier League. Obviously, the only soccer I truly give a shit about is I do love the World Cup. But that's just because I think there's just something about rooting for your country against other country that's pretty great. But like Chelsea, FC, and then like when it comes, I mean, like, and then like MLS, I went to a bunch of like DC United games. Yeah, which I was like, those are fun. Yeah, because it was like when I was a kid, it was when like Freddie Adu was the big thing.
Oh, man, do I remember that story very well.
Do you remember that shit, dude? It was like, it's so weird. It's 2 years where it's just like
they hyped him up so
he's the savior
much,
of U.S. soccer, and then it's like then he did nothing.
And then there was a whole thing about the controversy about him not being the age that he was claiming to be on the papers, which I was like, what? It made no sense to me. And then I knew people that knew someone that knew someone that knew someone that because I grew up I went to school in McLean High School. Yeah. And it was surrounded by a lot of people who work in the industry, more or less, government officials, people who were actors. And I mean, there was a lot of people that went to that school and their kids went there, I meant to say. So people had shared stories. Yeah, I know somebody who knows somebody who said that Freddie Adu actually lied on his age, but they only allowed this to happen because, they wanted the U.S. team to do very well. So he was going to play for them. Yeah. And there was this whole like backlog of stories. I was like, I don't give a shit anymore because I
just remember it being like the biggest news story. Like, this kid is unbelievable.
He was good. Like, I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't good. He was good,
but he wasn't like, he didn't save U.S. soccer. Like, I just remember them talking like he's the savior. And it's just like, but also, I mean, like, I like U.S. men's soccer. I like U.S. women's soccer. Yeah. But Chelsea was the team.
What made you choose them though? For you,
I just really loved playing with them in FIFA. Like I was a kid and just like had to pick a team in FIFA, and I can't remember what FIFA year it was, but I really, really, really liked playing as Chelsea. I was like, oh yeah, I'll do this.
Well, you got good taste then. But okay, so what was my question?
I think my brother's a Man City fan. So he's
they've come a long way, man, from what they were many years, and then all of a sudden they were bought by these new owners, and they just completely did an overhaul with that team, and they are unfucking stop. As soon as they got Pep Guardiola, I was like, these guys are set.
Yeah,
There's no way they're gonna struggle. They're gonna be
that's
set.
like that's my brother's favorite sport too. He watches so much soccer. It's and I just like, and that is a sport where it's like I like to just. I think I remember exactly what it was. I like to just like follow it and watch the highlights and see who's doing well. I can't watch, like, my brother will watch every game, but I remember what it was. I was playing FIFA, and I think the FIFA game I was playing, and I played as Chelsea, and I just loved playing as Drogba, and I was just
Didier Drogba.
Yeah, I was just loved playing as him, and I was just like, yeah, this is the team I want to root for. I was like, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah, once he retired and left the team, well, not retired, but once he left the team, went to Galatasaray. I always mispronounce the name, but yeah, we felt you know, it's weird for me. I'm not from England, and I don't have a problem with people saying this here, but I don't feel comfortable saying we, like as if though I've been there and I've lived there, and therefore I can claim it to be, you know, mine. I mean, I can say that for the Capitals. I am a Capitals fan, but I'm not a hardcore fan. But I can claim them as mine because I grew up in the area. I've grown up around them, and I actually love the team. But for me to claim, you know, Chelsea as, you know, they're my team, I can say we, it feels a little odd for me. So I always feel people strange people say that.
This. I look at it like this. Have you ever? Do you own any Chelsea FC stuff?
Dude, man, you should see my fucking closet. And as a matter of fact,
you can call it we.
Yeah, but I'm not the company. No, but here's the thing. No, but here's the thing. Here's the reason why I don't feel comfortable with it. It's because of this. I've gone to a few of these friendly games where Barcelona played. Like, I think Barcelona played against Man United. It was just a friendly little game. Then I saw Real Madrid. No. Yeah, I did see Real Madrid played against DC United. This is well over 10 years ago. And then I did see Chelsea play twice in a friendly match. The last one was in RFK Stadium when it was still around.
Yeah.
So I noticed right then and there the loyalty, and I'm not saying that to be disrespectful, but the loyalty to the team. Like, I remember I saw one guy who was shouting at another guy, and these were Americans, mind you. There's a Chelsea supporter who was shouting at this Arsenal supporter because he had his jersey on, and he was saying, "What are you doing here?" And all of a sudden, creating like some sort of rift.
Yeah.
And then the guy was like, "Are you a real Chelsea supporter? Sing the theme to Chelsea." And there was a theme to Chelsea, which I don't know verbatim, but I know the song enough. And he was asking the guy to sing that song, and then the guy was singing the Arsenal song, the Gunner song, and then the guy couldn't reply back, and then he just kept walking away. And I was like, this looks so fucking stupid to me that I am never going to do that, because I felt, to me, it would be a huge disrespect to the real supporters who are out in England, born and raised, and having to been around the team through thick and thin, who I just happened to enjoy, who I became a fan of the team since 2012, just around the time before they won the Champions League, when they were on the verge of losing, and then kind of got that rebound and ended up winning the FA Cup and the Champions League that year in 2012. But I happened to become a fan just before all that started to unfold that way. So I never felt that I guess you could say I never earned that that sense of like, I don't know if ownership's the right word. I don't know what the right word is here, but seeing that interaction between these two American fans who are supporting teams from overseas and arguing like that, I was like, this is so fucking stupid. Like, I could see myself do that if I was born in England and an Arsenal fan came over. I could see myself do that.
Yeah, I see. I think gatekeeping like that is just stupid. It's like, who cares?
Right.
Who gives a shit if someone isn't as big of a fan of a thing as you are? It's just like, what's the? I don't see the. So I hear that, and I think it's less like, I don't know, man. I think if you want to like what I care about is like if you pick Chelsea and then they start to lose and then you switch. It's like if you pick Chelsea and you root for Chelsea, who cares when you started, man? Like, who cares?
Right.
Because I look at it like going back to like how we talked about just talking about cancel culture stuff the last time. It's just like, who cares when you got the right opinion? Shouldn't it matter that you just have the right opinion? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm gonna like, you say someone grows up a piece of shit and like has all these like someone grows up like an asshole and you have racist parents and you learn these things and then like eventually you beat all these ideas out of your head and you become someone that doesn't have those viewpoints anymore. Should we be mean to that person because it took them 35 years to figure it out, or should we be like, fuck yeah, you're on the right team, man? Yeah, like you picked the right team. And so that's just kind of how I try to view it or whatever.
I know where you're getting at too, but I mean, for me, I just honestly, for me, I feel it's almost like a sense of disrespect for myself. I'm not talking for the guys who are
Yeah.
living here and born here, and that's. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about for me personally. I just feel it's almost disrespectful to say, yes, we are. I'm like I've heard a lot of Americans here say, London is blue. It's like, motherfucker, you're not even in London. You weren't even born. Like,
Yeah.
I can't even claim that. So I wouldn't support myself saying London is blue because I'm not there. But I can say, Chelsea supporter, Chelsea fan, whatever the case may be. But
Yeah.
to do that, I just have a problem with it for me personally. But I don't have a problem with anyone else doing it, but I just
Yeah.
don't have that
That's
that
I
kind of
hate.
like I have the respect for myself to not do that, because unless I've been living there for the last, say, 6-7 years, then I think I would have been able to earn it, because I've seen it thick and thin.
Yeah.
I've been a part of that community, and I'm participating in that. And I felt like that if I've earned the respect from all the other supporters, say, yeah, you're part of the crew, then yeah, I could feel that, yes, I am a supporter now in that respect. But from here, I'm just a spectator who's a fan from afar. And I've been lucky enough to see them play live a handful of times. But
Yeah, that's great.
but that's just how I personally look at it for myself.
Yeah, I fucking That's why that's why soccer is my fucking least favorite sport. It's
But
just like God,
the fans,
soccer
though.
are annoying. It's
Okay,
so
so,
annoying.
but I'm going to
Hooligans
ask
are
you:
so annoying.
do you think soccer fans are more
White,
annoying than
yes,
college
they're
fans?
white. Yeah, absolutely. Soccer fans are like white trash, man. Like I don't. Like it's just garbage, dude. Like your team loses and you're gonna like murder people and burn the city down, and you're gonna yell the N-word at black players on the other
Yeah,
team.
yeah,
It's like it's
yeah.
trash, dude. It's the worst. It's Euro trash. That is
Mm.
what most soccer fans are. It's just drunk Euro trash, and it's like it's just so crazy. It's so crazy
Ah,
that they say that like how racist America is, which I agree. There's a lot of racist
yeah,
shit in
yeah,
America,
yeah.
but it's like you'll hear that from someone in Europe, and it's just like, oh, really? Because I just saw a clip of this thing where you guys all just chanted the N word at a dude from fucking
Yeah,
Ghana
they
when he played
famously,
against you.
yeah, they famously did that to Mario Balotelli, who was Italian, but his family are from Ghana,
Yeah,
but he was born and raised in Italy. Um, and he was like the guy.
yeah,
And then when he was playing against the opposite team, the opposing fan, or the fans of the supporting of the opposite team were making monkey sounds, and you
yeah,
saw it broke him. And
yeah.
I
It's
was like, that
bullshit.
is fucked up.
Yeah, just the worst. Just the worst people, man. It's like I don't know.
Yeah,
Like I know that that's happened in all sport. It's like that doesn't when that happens in like the US for a sporting event, it's one dude, not
yeah,
40,000 people that are like, this is a great
yeah,
idea for a chant. It's like, I don't know, we'll like whip batteries at somebody. You know what I mean? Like John
yeah.
Kruk, when he's playing for the Phillies, will get batteries whipped at him. But like,
What's actually for you the worst thing you saw happen at a live event for either college basketball, football, or any sport you went to, that you saw that, like,
uh,
holy shit, this has gone too far, at least
Phillies,
for my taste.
Philly fans are pretty terrible. I remember being like a 14-year-old kid
Mm.
and being at a Phillies Cardinals game and then just having drunken grown men screaming at me.
Why?
And just yelling because they're playing the Cardinals and they're just being like, boo, fuck you. And like I'm like 11 and I'm like, what is going on? Like what's happening? I've seen people get into fist
Um,
fights. I think
yeah, yeah,
drunken
yeah,
fist fights are that, or like I've
yeah,
seen like people get into like shoving matches at like Tech UVA games where like a
yeah,
UVA fan is sitting with his Tech friends in the Tech section, and there's some Tech people being assholes. And then I've been at the UVA games, being in the UVA section with my UVA friends and getting shit yelled at me, and it's just like I don't know. I think cheering and booing and stuff is fine,
yeah.
but the yelling and being mean to other fans,
And
if the
parading the
person's
other people,
yeah,
yeah,
with they aren't being annoying, it's like I don't know, man. I like going and cheering loudly for my team and cheering when something good happens for my team, whether that means the other team's messed up or my team's done something good. But the actual like berating and just like trying to pick fights with other drunk people, it's insane because that's just
yeah.
what that's what it is. It's just drunk people fighting
You
each
know,
other.
that's one of the reasons why I mentioned. I just remember now that about my whole like sense of like loyalty to Chelsea, and to claim it as, I, me and
Yeah,
them, whatever. I was at a Barcelona game, and they were playing against Man United over in FedEx Field, and again, it was a Barca versus Man U game. Some Real Madrid guy shows up, and he had a Real Madrid jersey. I forgot what player it was on there, but he
yeah,
had an air horn, and it was literally like me sitting here in, west, north, south, so yeah, east that way,
yeah,
and you can clearly see it. But the guy is waving the jersey around, and he has an air horn, and he's blowing it 9 times because at that time, Real Madrid had won 9 Champions League.
Yeah.
Now they've won 13, but at that time it was only 9.
Yeah.
So he was blowing the air horn 9 times, and clearly some people around him were very annoyed. And then this one Barcelona fan, because he had a jersey on, just fucking flipped out, grabbed the guy's jersey, and then shoved him. And then the guy was blowing the air horn in his face. And there was a shoving match going back and forth. And like other people got involved. Kids were in the middle of it. I remember if I recall correctly.
Insane.
And then it was settled, but it escalated very quickly. And then it dropped. And then security showed up, and they're questioning everybody who started it. And everyone was like having all these like points of views. But you could tell it pointing here, there, left and right, up and down. And no one gave a straight answer from what I can recall. But I remember that section was cleaned out right away. Once all that scuffle occurred there. But yeah, I mean, like I don't know. Sports to me is a very fun thing. But it is serious to a degree, but it's not that serious to the point where you have to hurt other people.
Yeah.
So
it's the only my thing is like the only day that's going to be ruined is mine. Like it's got nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to affect anyone else or like make anyone. Because I'll also be like, there's just something like, at the end of the day, it's like you're at a sporting event. There's kids there that are falling in love with their team, and like even if I'm not a Nats fan, it was cool when I go to the Cardinals play the Nats and see like a 6-year-old Nats fan with his cap on, and like you see someone kind of falling in love.
Fuck you, loser! You're not gonna do that.
Fuck you, bitch. Boo. Fuck you.
And throw a beer at them. That'd be fucked up.
Yeah, dude. But that's what people lean. Like, dude, these guys were like leaning 3 rows down, screaming into my 12-year-old ear.
Yeah.
Boo. Go home. Fuck you. And I was like, what a shitty, terrible city Philadelphia is. The worst fans on earth.
Well, I don't even remember how we got into the topic of sports here. I just remember thinking as a kid growing up that my dad is a big soccer fan.
Yeah.
And I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this here, but I remember when the World Cup was happening, that was his entire world. Like that was his focus. So growing up in a Hispanic home, the World Cup was everything. So anyway, one day my dad, I think he was supposed to take us out with him, and he did, but I think he may have told my mom or somebody else that he was going to be doing one thing, but didn't do it because he was going to watch a game. So he's sitting down watching with his. I'm assuming who they were, his friends. I had no idea who these guys were, and he's watching like 3-4 games the entire day, and literally my brother and I were just out doing whatever all to ourselves.
Okay.
And then I remember thinking like, if this is what sports does to a person, I don't want to be a part of that. And there was a long period of time where I just didn't keep up with it like that because of that experience. And that wasn't a terrible experience, but I just remember thinking like, hey, I'm kind of hungry. Do you have something for my kid so he can eat? Like I just remembered like, and then all the guys were like, yeah, just go to the refrigerator. I was like, holy shit.
That's awesome.
So, but again, I understand the culture, but I guess it depends on which culture you're coming from here. But it's not something that I remember having a lot of fond memories over, other than when I was watching it by myself. So for you though, like
I got so many good memories,
right? Because your family was involved, and it became like a big thing for everyone involved. But it wasn't that way for me as a kid growing up. It was literally like, leave me alone, I'm watching the game. That's what it was for me. So I felt isolated from that. So it wasn't until I got older that I started appreciating sports more, because other friends were bringing that in, and they're telling me about the sports, and they involved me with that community more or less. And then my perception changed a little bit there. So, it took me a while to finally get into the sports, but when I did, little by little, I became more aware about like, okay, this is bullshit, that's bullshit, and that's my perception how I.
And I grew up with the whole thing. It's a family event. My dad loved sharing that with me and my brother, just being like, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna go to the game. We went to a bunch of games and stuff for different sports, and so it's pretty. I could totally see where like if I didn't have that positive, but it's just like it's the thing I grew up with, and it's very positive to me, and I enjoy doing it, and it's just like it's a thing that comedy like takes up so much of my brain about all the stuff I focus on. It's nice to have a thing that's just like I can kind of zone out and enjoy this, and I can like still get emotional and root for it. And like I read the Bleacher Report apps all the time. And
do you think though that if you have a set, let's say it's at 10 o'clock and VTech are in the ACAA championship, and that is the game to watch, and your set's at 10 o'clock, would you tell the promoters, hey, can we postpone until midnight so I can finish watching
Dude,
the game?
if I'm a headliner, if I'm
Mhm.
ever at a point in my life where I'm like a headliner and I can actually do that, I will absolutely do that. Like there's no doubt in my mind.
So you would
But
actually use that power to say, listen, VTech's playing right now. I got to watch a game. So we're going to postpone it till the game is over.
but here's what I would do. Because I think that if it was something where it's like, hey, Tech has this huge game, I'm going to come here. If I'm at a club and I'm headlining at the club, I'd be like, you can tell people that they can come in and watch the game with me, and I will come out into the crowd and we can watch it on the screen or whatever. You know what I mean? I'll be like, I'll make it part of the event where it's like they can still come in if they want to. If they want their money back for their tickets, they can have it. Or if they want to watch this game with me for an hour and a half, and then I'll just get on stage and we'll do comedy afterwards. Like that's what I would do. But dude,
I think you would actually be good and involved in the crowd in that respect, watching the game, because to me, you strike me as a person that will converse with somebody, but not to the extent like how you would if you're working a crowd. I think you have, in my perception, that you'll be focused on the game, and like,
I would.
If something happens, you probably bust into tears. And
yeah, but that'd be like, I think that would just be kind of fun. It's just like, and to me, it's like, if I am a headliner that has the power to delay a show, then in my mind, I'm a headliner where I probably actually have fans, and so they're just gonna love the idea that they got to watch a game with me. Does that make sense? Where it's just sense. Like, yeah, I see where it's like, even if you showed up and it's like, oh man, I got to like, it's crazy. I got to like watch a game with Jim Gaffigan. You know what I mean? Like where it's like, isn't that so? Is this weird thing about just? And then he did a show, so it's like it's like I would be like, oh, it's this cool experience that we would get to. Like I had a show in Brooklyn the night of the ACC championship, and I asked to go first on the show, and then I walked 25 minutes and 11-degree weather to watch the second half of the Duke Tech game at the Barclays Center. Like I was like, can I please go first? And they're like, okay. And I did it, and I didn't network or anything. I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. It's like my only chance. Like, because I'm like, this will never happen again. I was like, I don't think we'll ever win the ACC tournament again. We're in the same conference with Duke and UNC and Louisville. So it's like, what are the chances of? And we beat Duke and UNC and Notre Dame. It was a great little run. But it's like, it's so rare for a non-blue blood school to get that conference tournament, especially in such a good basketball conference, that I was just like, I have to do this. I got no options.
Is Virginia Tech like, is it renowned for mainly because of its because of the sport of the teams there, or is it also renowned for?
It's a pretty good school, honestly.
More like the academic side of it, or because I think it's an engineering school too, isn't that? Is that what it's mostly?
Yeah, so it's a very good engineering school. It's when I was there, it was a top 10 engineering school. I think it was a top 25 business school. It was either the number 1 or the number 2 architecture school in the country. They also are known for, I believe, their veterinary program.
I've heard about that.
And there's a lot of stuff with sports medicine because you've got the big sports team. So the degree was H&FE, so human nutrition, food, and exercise. And generally across the board, it was a pretty good school for like a lot of different things. Like I think it's like a top 100 public school. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely like in the 70 whatever range, and it's got a bunch of really, really good programs. So it's known as being a good school, but the sports definitely, when I first went to college, hold on one second, my dog is going crazy. Yeah. What are you doing? Quit whining. Come here. He's trying to get upstairs.
Oh, good.
Which is fine. But like it was a good school when I was going there. Like when I applied to it, they told me it was a safe. It was my reach school, and so I was like, all right, well, we'll see if I get in. And I got in. I was like, I guess I'm going. But it's a good school, but definitely it's college football. It's more known for that, I think, outside of Virginia. Like in Virginia, you kind of know, oh, it's this good program. And I think outside of it's like, you're like, oh, college football, they played in the national championship game once and won a bunch of bowl games and won the ACC tournament a lot. And then also like, I mean, the mass shooting. that's honestly probably the thing people know it for the most, which is not fun.
But growing up for you though, because I'm wondering, at least as far as like the that whole area where that part of the area makes up a large population of Hokie fans, but from your perspective, or at least from what you can remember when you're growing up, were people fan of Virginia Tech because of the sports team, or were they also fans of Virginia Tech because of the quality of education, and then the
Uh,
sports was just kind of an extra incentive
I
for
think
them?
for the most part, if you're like a fan of the school and you're not going there or you don't know someone that went there, it's pretty much just the sports. Like it's
Mm,
just like, oh, I like this. They're cool. They're fun to watch. Like a lot, I think a lot of people that like don't have like my dad went to Tech, so I had like a tie to it. But I knew friends that like didn't have family that really went, but they were just Tech fans because they're just like Tech was known as a more blue collar school than UVA. So it's the type of thing of where you're just like, there's that blue collar versus white collar type of thing. And like, it's just like, so you'd have a bunch of good old country boys that were like Tech fans because they were known for their hard nosed defense and their
yeah,
work
yeah,
ethic and stuff like. So I think it's just like the culture that the school built, and is what I think attracted people. And I think the blue collar family culture, like hardworking defense, like
yeah.
hard nosed defense, not flashy offense, really, for places in Virginia, especially like Central and Southwest Virginia, I think really spoke to them because they're just like, hell yeah, dude. It's like
You know,
they're
it
just like
reminded
me.
me. I talked to a guy a number of years ago who is a VTech fan himself, and one of the things I think I remember him saying was that that UVA fans are considered to be like at the time the word didn't exist, I think, but they're more like bougie. There's champagne bottles and champagne glasses,
Yeah, dude.
whereas VTech was are more down to earth. That's how he kind of like compared
Yeah,
it.
dude.
So I was
It's
like, is
wine
it?
and champagne
Yeah, yeah,
versus
yeah.
beer, man. Like that's just what like what do you know what I mean? Like what do you want, dude? It's like it's wine tastings versus cookouts. Like it's like, it's like protect, it's like, oh, a bunch of guys barbecuing. But then you go to the games and you really see that there's a lot of white collar people that are Virginia Tech fans because
Yeah,
they went
yeah.
to Tech, got a good education, and then they became engineers or they work in computer science. And then you go to UVA and it's like a pretty rural area around Charlottesville. And so you got a lot of UVA fans that are good old boys and country stuff. It's just kind of, I think, what the face of all of it is.
Do you feel like though that when it comes to the rivalry that there a certain point between the two teams where the rivalry was just so toxic that you really couldn't be around other UVA supporters, even if you went to the games, like there
Yeah.
like some sort of fine line, like okay, this is getting too much here. We should be very careful with where we walk because
Up
this isn't a place for us to be around at this
Yeah, I
time.
never had that.
Okay.
There was always a lot of shit talk and a lot of like, fuck you, your school sucks, UVA sucks, Tech beats the shit out of you in football every year.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself. And then UVA is like, well, we've won national championships and fucking tiddlywinks or whatever. And I'm just like, all right, whatever, fuck you. Only people only care about football. Like there's like that, like that's the argument is UVA being like, we won a national championship in swimming, and Tech's like, no one gives a fuck about swimming. We beat the shit out of you in football almost every year like that. And so that's and I think a lot of the rivalry stuff kind of changed after the Tech shooting because it was a lot of just being like, oh fuck, like yeah, people still shit talk and whatever, but it's like, oh, this is like a real thing. Like this is like a real thing that happened and really is just like
So,
I
so
don't know, man.
is it a lot like asking, can I insult you just for the sake of the game before we get
Yeah.
started? Is that
Yeah.
like, oh, really?
It's
Okay.
just like type of thing. A lot of ball busting and just the fun, like fuck you, your school's dog shit, you bunch of redneck. Like there's a great video of like and I'm not a huge Colin Cowherd fan, but he's like the
Mhm.
sports radio guy. He has a great thing where like years ago he was doing a radio program where he was having people call, he named the top 10 states for football.
Mhm.
And Virginia wasn't named one of them. And someone called in and was like, I think Virginia should be top 10 because we have really good high school football and Tech UVA rivalry. And then Colin Cowherd just goes off for 10 minutes about how being like, it's not a rivalry. It's like UVA is soft. They're a bunch of weenies. They just are a bunch of Zima drinking babies. It's like, it doesn't matter. If Tech plays UVA 99 times out of 100, put your money on Vatech. And it's like it is one of my favorite videos of all time because he's just shitting down the throat. He's like, if you're a UVA fan, call in. I'll crap down your mouth all day. I'll talk bad about your school. And it's just he's like, we get a top 15 recruiting class. He's like, you always have a good recruiting class. You do nothing with it. And I was like, this is awesome. It is great. It's such a good video. It's Colin Cowherd talks about UVA or talks about Virginia Tech, and it's one of my favorite videos of all time. That's just so good.
What do you think has the biggest rivalry in terms of college football or college sports in general? Who do you think, in your opinion, has like the top rivalry where it rivals like in the same vein as like say Real Madrid and Barcelona,
And
or
college
yeah,
in baseball, it's like I think the biggest rivals in baseball are like Yankees, Red Sox,
right,
obviously, and then you go to the National League and it's Cubs, Cardinals, but it's not the same as Yankees, Red. It's just not the same. It's not as big of a national brand. You go to the NFL, and I think it used to be, Skins Cowboys. Like that's still like a huge rivalry. College football though, I think maybe Ohio State, Michigan. Like
mm,
that's a pretty big route. Like those schools, I think really hate each other. Bama, Auburn, I think is another
yeah,
one. They really don't like each other at all. I think when they were good, like USC, UCLA, there's really big name schools that don't like each other. And then when you switch to college basketball, it's Duke, UNC.
yeah.
Like I hear that, and I'm like, Duke, UNC is got to be the number one college basketball rivalry. But I love it, man. There's just something about I love just like there's just something about those rivalries. Why, like why do those people, and a lot of times it's purely just location based.
Yeah.
Like Chapel Hill is so close to Durham, and it's like, and they're both two historically good schools fighting over recruits, fighting over viewership and fans. They've always had good coaches, they've always had great players, and a lot of really good games. So like I think that's what goes to like a really truly great like just great rivalry are those types of things. Yeah.
Do you think that when it comes to rivalry in sports altogether,
Yeah.
do you think like that actually does help out build the excitement? Because here's the reason I'm bringing this up here, because I love rivalry in sports, but for some reason lately for myself, I should say for some reason, I don't know why, but rivalry in sports, especially when it comes to fighters, especially now with like MMA,
Yeah.
I keep up with the sport, but it's mostly peripherals because I only watch the cards when it's a fight that I'm interested in watching. But when it comes to
Yeah.
the lead up to the fight where people are talking shit to each other,
I love it.
you love it. I
I
don't
love
like
it.
it.
See, I love it because I don't give a fuck about the MMA. So it's like like people physically hurting each other.
Mhm.
I can't watch that. I have a hard time like watching that. It
Was
like
it
really
too
gets me.
gruesome for you, or what's the
Yeah, it
deal?
gets me like kind of sick to my stomach to
Oh,
where it's just
okay.
like it's people just like it's impressive.
Hmm.
And I think that those people are awesome. And I think they're some of the best athletes literally on earth.
Yeah,
But it's just
yeah,
like you see some of the injuries and it's just like someone's eye socket like getting busted. And it's just like,
yeah.
fuck, man. And like some people have died. So it's just like, it's just kind of
Yeah.
hard for me to like look at that and be like, fuck, man. But it's cool. Like, don't get me wrong. But I have a hard time. I couldn't watch a whole card. It would be hard to watch like people getting hurt for like hours.
Mhm.
But I love the shit talk because it's just some of the funniest shit of all time. Like the mind game aspect of it, I really like. Dude, I love watching like Chael Sonnen clips,
He's one of the
and
best. Yeah,
he's so good at it,
yeah.
man.
I think he's probably
He's
the best he's ever done, in my opinion.
yeah, dude, and like just watching clips of him talking shit to like Wanderlei Silva or
Vanderlei
whatever,
Silva.
Vanderlei
Yeah,
Silva.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's awesome, dude. It's like I can't let you get close. I can't let you get
Well, I
close.
mean, but here's the thing, though. Like when I like, there are very few guys whose trash talk is so good because you know that they understand the concept behind it and they
Yeah,
understand and how it would help promote this, the card. But for me lately, I feel like a lot of the build up to those fights, it kind of becomes a little, I wouldn't say childish, but I'm not going to say inauthentic, but it just seems off about it for me.
yeah,
Where the guys that a couple years ago weren't necessarily like that, out of the blue, boom, they're going to start shit talking and they're making videos like, hey, so I decided to let you know that I created a little doll here for you to with your face on it. I'm going to punch it in the face and I'm going to
yeah,
stab it too. Like it just seems so stupid. And then when
yeah,
they fight, either they win, but they don't win convincingly, or if they lose horribly,
yeah.
or it's a pretty even fight and it turned out to be really good. But it's kind of a rare thing to actually see that where the hype actually lived up to the expectation.
Yeah, I agree. But I think
So
that I think like the shit talk and the rivalry stuff really helps build interest in people that normally wouldn't care.
right,
Like so it's like you're someone that like you're gonna, if it's a fight you want to watch, even though you don't like the trash talk, you're
yeah,
still gonna watch the fight. You know
right,
what I mean? Like they're
yeah,
not
yeah.
losing you by doing it. But if the trash talk's really good, they might get someone like me to be like, yeah, I'll go half on a pay-per-view. I mean, I like this guy sucks. I want to see his like, dude, if you told me like if Logan Paul or Jake Paul did MMA instead of boxing,
Yeah.
and like the shit talk was real intense, and it's them like talking shit, and it's just like, okay, like you're gonna have, you know what I mean? Like I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, this is great. I'd be like, I would pay $60 to watch Jake Paul or Logan Paul get their arms ripped off their bodies. Like I would pay, like I would absolutely, because that shit talk would be unreal.
Yeah.
And I think that that's how you get casual people that aren't already fans to watch it. Is you have this big like
Yeah.
crazy spectacle.
I agree with you, and I do understand excuse me, that concept, but I don't know, it just like it to me it became more of like a showmanship rather, and I'm not saying they're not good athletes, that's not what I'm getting at here, but to me it seemed like more like a showmanship. It's like they're developing a personality more than the actual fight. But again, I'm not diminishing that they're not training, because I'm sure they're training very hard.
It just reminds me of pro wrestling.
Right, but even then,
I like pro wrestling.
Right, I mean, I'm saying, but pro wrestling, it has a purpose for that.
Yeah.
You have there's a narrative, so it makes sense within that world. But again, if you have to be good at both. You have to be really good at talking, and you have to be really good at pro wrestling as well too.
Yeah.
And if you're good at one and you're not good at the other, then you got to pick a position where what are you going to be doing?
Yeah, what are you going to be good at?
Right. So you have like your Paul Heymans and so on and so forth, who participate in the physicality to a degree, but they're not going to wrestle.
Yeah, they're guys that just are, they're good on the mic.
Right. They're good on the mic, and they have strong personalities too. So it works well within the context of that field. But again, if you're a fighter though, I feel like lately a lot of it is like just hamming it up for, and I mean, I don't want anyone to listen think like, you think we're not for legitimate. I don't want us to get in.
No, I think it's legitimate, but it's also like, I think that UFC is like, oh, we kind of need, so naturally in sports to get people, if you watch any like ESPN or anything, every sporting event, they're creating a storyline to the story to the sporting event. So it's just like when Brady went to the Buccaneers, the Super Bowl storyline was like, it's just like, okay, it's like, is Brady going to be dethroned? That's the storyline on the other side. And the other side is like, is Brady going to win a Super Bowl his first year outside of, and it's like, oh, that's the storyline. Like it's his chase for greatness and someone trying to get in the way of him and being like the next generation. And like every sporting event is like that. And it's like Tech, like, and then when you have the rivalries, it's like, all right, Tech UVA, it's like Tech's won 17 out of 18 years. UVA is trying to do this. Tech has a new coach. And it's just something about those storylines that I think help someone that isn't a huge diehard fan get emotionally invested. Right. So like I could watch an MMA fight and then be like, oh, this is cool, these guys are fighting. But if it's something where I'm like, oh, like I can't think of this guy, like, oh, this guy's the big Trump fucking MMA fighter, Colby. What, you know what I mean? Like you're getting people emotionally invested. Like I want this dude to get like, because there's people that are going to watch, like I want this guy to get fucking hurt. Yeah. And then there's other people that are just like loving him winning and just being like, fuck, dude. You know what I mean? Like there's those storylines is you're making a casual fan get emotionally invested, and not just in this one fight. They're just like, man, if this is just this one fight, I wonder what the whole card is like, or like, oh, I wonder what the next pay-per-view will be like.
Yeah, I mean that's the element of surprise too, where you just don't know what you can be getting, and I understand that as well. But I don't know. I think a lot of it, because I'm trying to be very careful how I say it, because I don't want to come off as being disrespectful to a lot of guys who are actually doing it, and I understand the reasons behind it. But I don't know. I don't necessarily have that same connection with the lead up to the fight, unless it's like, yeah, I like the guy, but I'm getting paid X amount of money to be able to pull this off here, and I want to win the title because it's important for me to be, you know. I'd rather hear that realistic talk than fuck that asshole, and I hate his team and I hate everybody else that he's in love with, and I hope they all die. Like that. That to me seems so weird. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add up, because then when you talk to the person outside of that whole
they're fine with each
persona,
other.
They're like, yeah, it was a great fight, man. Thank you so much. I mean, you see them do that all the time when they're I'm like, come on, man.
And I think a lot of this has to do with just like, I think when you're, at least for the MMA, when you're in a sport where the sport is, I need to hurt this other person.
Right.
I think it's like faking it till you make it, right? Like it's the type of thing where like if you and I like had a fight and it's like, and I like you, but it's like, it's hard for me to just hit someone that I like, even if it's for money. So, but if I'm just in my mind for a month being like, oh, he's a piece of shit. Oh, fuck him. He said he would root for Notre Dame when I was trying to root for Virginia Tech. I want to break his legs. Yeah, I'm gonna break his legs. I think that just kind of helps you get in the mindset to do the things you might not want to do, as opposed to the NBA where it's just like, I'm not trying to physically hurt someone. I'm just gonna score 40 points on somebody, and it's like that's just. It's you know what I mean, like it's where I feel like it's more realistic when they don't like each other. Like there's
George St. Pierre, who's a legend in the sport, where he was asked, would you ever fight one of your training partners or someone that that you work with in your camp on a fight, especially if it makes sense, because it will generate a lot of interest and potentially make a lot more money for you and your friend and whatever. And he was like, I would never want to fight my friend. And like, why is it? Because one, I train with them. I know them outside of the fight world, and and there's a reason why I'm connected with them. So for the idea of me having to fight them, and then let's say if I get in a good position, and then I start elbowing them, and I'm elbowing them in the face, and I'm lacerating their face, it doesn't sit well with me to do that to my friend. In training, I can attempt that, but it's all within reason, because we are helping each other out.
You're training, and it's more like when you're training, you don't need to be hammering, because it's like what you're trying to do is you're trying to just get in that position.
Right.
So like once you're on top of them and see that you can do it,
right.
You know what I mean? Like he's not training on how to elbow someone in the fucking face. You know what I mean? Like
but he's not doing it to hurt his friend though.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're in this case, the octagon or the ring, whatever,
you have to do it.
You have to do it, and you have to have intent to hurt the person, so that way you can gain that momentum for yourself. So for him to say that I don't want to do that to my friend because the idea of hurting him like that will affect me, and I don't want to cause any sort of harm. No, I'm pretty sure. I don't think he said that I don't want them to harm me, because he was so dominating at that time. He probably felt he could just
really hurt them. Yeah.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, that mindset, in my opinion, I understood, and I actually believed that more. But then again, when he was fighting against Michael Bisping for the middleweight title, when Michael Bisping was shouting up all this stuff here, I mean, it was funny for him to say those things because it was part of his character, more or less. But having George St. Pierre respond in that respect too seemed off. It didn't seem like his part of the characteristics that we've all been around. It would just seem a little off-putting, where he was trying to kind of go along with that train, but he didn't do it as well. And even he admitted, I just felt uncomfortable, and I said those things, but in reality, it's not how I am. He admitted it and then changed that immediately, and then he whooped his ass. Yeah. So, but I mean, like, again, like, it's just, to me, it has to be a sort of authenticity to lead up to that. Like the whole Conor and Khabib thing. Yeah, that was legitimate, and I was all in that fight.
Yeah, dude. I just love it, because I think what I like about it is, but I think another reason that it happens is, at least for MMA, it's like you're trying to find a way to get the biggest purse, and the easiest way to make the most money for your fight is to be the most interesting fight. Right. And I think a lot of times the guys are probably just like, hey, man, I'm going to say some fucking terrible shit about you because we both need to get this money.
Yo, I mean, I understand it, dude. But I mean, like I said, you can tell that once, like, for example, Conor, like, set the standard. Chael Sonnen did a great job. But
Chael's really good at it. Conor's very good at it.
Yeah. But once he, like, when people saw, like, his rapid rise, once he came into the UFC, like, he just rose through the ranks. Yeah. Like, he was making bank, like,
so much money. He's shit talking like crazy, but also like kicking people's asses. Right. Like that, like he was fucking destroying people for that run that he had, man.
But then there was a period of time where, in my opinion, that a lot of people were more or less copying that. And you saw a lot more of that. And that's when I sort of feel like, man, this is no longer the authentic take on, like, promoting the fight. I mean, maybe Conor McGregor was shit talking, which he definitely was, but he was shit talking, pointing out the flaws of the individual, or finding the strengths of them, about them, and then try to find a way to break them down just to get to their head. And he did that very well with Jose Aldo. In like 14 seconds, knocks him out, because Aldo was like, fuck this asshole, and then boom, left himself wide open and got knocked out. Yeah. But that's part of the game, and I understand that tactic.
Yeah, the mind game is definitely part of it, man.
But then you have other fighters who are just taking a chapter from his book, and they're saying, let me just try this as well too, and not having any rivalry with the guy he's fighting with, and all of a sudden creating that rivalry. That right there, I knew right away was bullshit, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, but I think that's like, but for most people, I think they don't know that it's bullshit, right? Like, so the hardcore fans who know these fighters anyway might know it. But for the average Joe that's just seeing the fucking, like, the weigh-ins and the people, like, you're just like, okay, like, this is just, these people hate each other. And then they buy the pay-per-view and they get into it, and if they get super into the sport, then you learn like, oh yeah, maybe these people don't really hate each other like that. But by that point, you're already into the sport and you don't care. Yeah.
I mean, it's a thing that
Dana White's printing money right now,
dude. Man, look, here's one thing about I will never say anything bad about Dana White, because look, if there's anybody out there who has done something that has never been done before, it's him. And among there are other people like that are just like him in that respect, where Vince McMahon has changed the wrestling game ever since he started running a WWE or WWF at that time. So there's only a handful of people who have changed the trajectory, and because of what he's been able to pull off has been very successful.
Yes,
people look at him and they think that he is the main guy that made all this happen, and I do believe that as well too. So there's really nothing bad I have to say about him. I'm sure he's a nice person in real life as well too. But I was going to offer something here, but I'm forgetting here. But so here's what I wanted to ask you something. I wanted to ask you one other thing here about your perspective on comedy. And here's what I mean by this. So, with a lot of, we're talking about sport and we're talking about the entertainment aspect of it as well too. But I'm actually curious now to hear your perspective on how, growing up watching comedians and then growing up watching comedy in films, because I'm assuming that you like comedy movies as well too.
I do. Yeah, okay. I do.
So as you started getting into comedy more and more, I'm assuming that your perception has changed when it comes to the stand-up aspect of it in entertainment. For example, like if you watch a movie where an actor who's not a comedian pretending to be a comedian on in a film or on TV, I mean, I'm sure you can pick up on, okay, these guys are naturally good at this and that.
Yes.
You can clearly tell this was written for them and they're doing the best to try to articulate those words,
ideas,
to make it authentic. Right. So when you're watching people who are doing something in that respect, never having done it before, and then trying to take on a role that will give an authentic performance, do you think that it's better to allow the comedians to do that? Because I think most comedians nowadays, I would think, don't want to necessarily play a comedian in a film, because that's what they do for a living. So they rather try other areas to expand on their other capabilities. So therefore, the hired actor will be the one portraying the comedian more or less. Yeah. So I'm just curious about your perspective, how you feel about how comedy is handled when it's not being done by the person who has never done it before, because only a handful of films, in my opinion, have actually done well enough where you hire an actor and does a pretty good job. Because I know Robert De Niro, which I've never seen the film, he did a movie called The Comedian. Yeah, he's a comic. I've heard he did pretty good, but the film, I heard,
the King of Comedy or whatever. Yeah, it's
the King of Comedy. Yeah, but I've seen that movie once. But I'm talking about The Comedian, because that was the last one I recall. Yeah, it was like
I haven't watched that one
ago. But like, what's your perspective on that when it comes to comedy being presented and under the performance of someone else who's not in that world, if that makes any sense?
It's interesting because it's just like, I think some actors do a pretty good job of it,
right?
But all the best representations of comedians in acting are when they're portrayed by stand-up comedians. Like Pete Holmes and Crashing, the people, they're all playing comics in that. Great. Louis C.K. on his show, it's pretty, when he's doing the stand-up, it's him actually doing stand-up. Right. Like Maron's TV show, like when he has the stuff, it's just, I just think they do a really good job.
Or Jerry Seinfeld and Seinfeld. Yeah,
it's as close to a documentary as you can get, I think, is why it seems so cool. But I think for the average person watching something like where it's just someone, like there's this new show on HBO Max called Hacks. And
I heard about that.
Yeah. So like, and it's about a young female comic and a really old female comic, but the young female comic is Hannah Einbender, and she's a stand-up comic. And the older female comic is, and I'm completely blanking on her name, and I'm going to look up the name of it because I'm so bad with actresses' names, but she's someone who I should know her name. And as soon as I see it, I'm going to be literally so angry. Jean Smart.
Who?
So Jean Smart.
Jean Smart. Okay.
Yeah. So, but Jean Smart, as far as I know, has never been a stand-up comic. But she does a very good job in it. I think that I enjoyed watching the first season of that show. It's on HBO Max. It's worth watching because they've got a bunch of other stand-ups in it doing other things. And I think it's written by people that are like at least in the comedy world. So I think that's the other key is it's like it's more about the writers. Like, are the writers just fans of comedy, or are they comedians? Are they in the comedy world?
Mhm.
Are they stand-ups? But I think it can be done well. But I just know that all of my favorite performances or stuff where I've seen a comic being a comic is like when it's been a real stand-up.
In your opinion, what's actually a film or a TV show that did a really good job in more or less representing what it's like for comedians, not necessarily just focusing on the character story that's portraying, whether they be themselves or whoever the character may
Yeah.
be, but actually showcasing what it's really like for a comedian in various levels that you thought did a really good job in accurately portraying what it's like for a comedian out on the road, local scene, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. I think they did it. I think the only part they didn't do accurately is they made it happen too fast. But like Crashing by Pete Holmes does a pretty good job because at the very beginning, you see him doing bad open mics. You see his relationship not working out. But like, and then they show some stuff of him doing the road, and he does like a NACA conference trying to get on with colleges, and he does like
Mhm.
clean Christian comedy, and then he gets to work comedy clubs. There's like it's like they show like a 15-year comedic journey in 3 seasons. So it's like all this, like that
Mhm.
stuff generally takes longer to happen.
Mhm.
Like you're usually doing, if it was realistic show, it would be like 6 years of him being an open micer. You know what I mean? But you can't do that in TV. But
Yeah.
as far as like, even though the timeline is sped up, like the examples of him doing, like I've done shows at churches before. So when he shows a show of like a church, I'm like, this is kind of what it's like. Or like
Oh.
there was one where he's like a Christian, but he's doing a show at a synagogue. And I've done that before. I've done a Purim show for the holiday of Purim at a Jewish synagogue. And I've been the Christian guy at the show or the person that grew up Christian on the show. And it's pretty similar to like how it worked out. And like, it's just like, you just see there's this whole, and then like the college stuff is really cool. Cause you're like, yeah, this is the type of stuff that they want in colleges. It's like this type of comedy. And then
Yeah.
like when he's on the road as like a host, and like the headliner's bombing so hard that they move him up to feature. Like there's all these things that are just like it's a possible it can happen in a shitty road gig. So I think Crashing did a pretty good job. And then like Maron is really good, like Mark Maron's show
Yeah.
of showing like how a comic would actually react to some like interpersonal comedic conflicts and stuff. There's some really good episodes about that. So those are my two probably favorites.
So for you though, I'm curious about because I know that because we kind of touched upon it before in a previous conversation where you had you started comedy and you met Chris a month into it, and then he more or less kind of helped you along the way to
Yeah.
find your footing and among other things I would imagine too. But what for you personally, when did you actually, because I know you want to get into comedy, but I'm actually really curious about when you actually felt like, okay, I can actually do this, like this is what I really want to do, because I know
Probably
you wanted to do it, but
after my first show, probably.
okay.
Like the
Okay.
first show I had was like the first time I performed was like at a contest at a comedy club. And my first set ever, I won the contest and I beat people that had been doing comedy for a few years. And I was like, this is just what and so it's this type of thing where it's like, oh, if I had bombed my dick off, I probably would have never done comedy again. But like I did so well, and it was like I had a good set. I wasn't good, but I had a good set. My joke was okay. And
Did you record that, by the way?
oh yeah, I've got the first set. It's on a DVD at my mom's house. So I've got that.
You plan on
The
releasing it soon?
Yeah, it's yeah, it'll be $100 on my Patreon if you want to see that. But that after the first one, I was like, oh, I can do this, and the juice of doing really well my first time made it so that I could weather a lot of bombs early on because I'd
Mm.
had the taste of how good it could be, and I was like, okay, I've had that before. I just have to work on these things and grow. So after my first set, I was like, I'm going to do this for a living.
So you were already cognizant about the fact that you did so well that it wasn't like going to be like a repeated thing in the next
Yeah.
gig. Okay.
Yeah. I was like, in my mind, I was like, oh, I did well. I said, but I think I did well because I had, it was like probably 80 people there, and I was like 6 or 7 were there to see me. Like I was the first comic on the show that wasn't super dirty and vulgar. Like I worked pretty clean, and so I was like a little different. And I didn't go over my time, so I wasn't one of the comics that was disqualified. And like I just everybody seemed to enjoy it, and I got some good words of kindness. But I was just like, I was like, okay, this was really good. This feels like the best possible situation. And it was the type of thing where like I'd always wanted to try stand up, but I was always scared I wouldn't be good at it.
Right.
So just having that happen, it was just like, this is a thing you can do. It's going to take a long time. And like, so I wasn't like, oh, I'm the best comic of all time, but I was like, oh, this is a thing that I can do, because it was a good enough set that I was like, if I wasn't meant to do this, I wouldn't be able to have a set like this. But it wasn't so good that I was like, oh, I'm the best comic in the world. I'm a genius.
So
like
you actually believe, you actually do believe that it's like this is like a destiny for you, like this is what you're meant to do, or
oh
is
yeah,
this okay.
I think that it's the type of thing of where it's like I don't know if it's like the destiny, because I think that there's a lot of different things that people could do.
Mhm.
Like when I was teaching, I was like, oh, I'm built for this. I think people are built for different things. And I think I have the constitution and the will and the mental capacity and the comedic timing and the natural, like being funny and like personable and stuff that it takes to be a good teacher, be a good comedian. Like I think if I could get over the anxiety of like selling, I think I could be a good salesperson.
Yeah.
So it's
I know
like,
that
so like,
feeling.
so like I've got those things going for me. So like, I don't know if comedy was the one destiny, but it was like when I was doing it, I was like, oh, I was made to do this. Like, it's like, I can,
Interesting.
like, this feeling's great. I have anxiety and fears, but it's like, I'm not afraid to get on stage. Like, and then after you do stand up long enough, all of those anxieties go, and you just have the nerves of doing well or doing poorly, but it's never like, oh no, I can't get up. It's like, I got 3 sets I'm going to do tonight, and I'm going to bomb all 3 of them because they're 3 open mics, and I don't care. It's just like, it's just what I do. I've been doing comedy long enough now that like when I bomb, it's like, this sucks, but this is what I do. And sometimes you have to bomb and eat shit. Like, this is, I was meant to do
How
this.
often do you bomb where you realize that okay, so, because like here's what I'm curious, because I've listened to some veteran comedians who still say to this day that yeah, I bombed recently. Actually, I bombed the night before, and I'm
Yep.
thinking like what does, I mean, in my opinion, at least at that time, my question would be that what is it about that you think bomb? Because I think the years of experience and knowing how to read the room and knowing what works for them and what doesn't work, and being in the same environment they
Yeah.
were at there before, that to them maybe bombing means that they didn't laugh as much or they did
Yes.
laugh as much, but bombing in my eyes to me sounds like no one laughed or
Yeah.
people are telling you get the fuck out. But
So
for you, what's that for
when I
you?
started, no one laughing is a bomb.
Right.
But then when you start doing well more often, you get used to that doing well. So then so basically, I'm gonna see. Hold on. Oh, I've got a mic stand, so I can do this.
Mhm.
So basically, for me, it's like this is a bomb, and this is killing, and like these are always the same, like distance from each other.
Mhm.
So it's like when I started, if this is a 0, this is like, let's say 30, like a 30 out of 100. And then as you do well, they both kind of raise up. So now to me, killing is like, I've got to be doing like an 80 or a 90, but that means that bombing is now like a 60. So like something for me to qualify as a bomb
Mhm.
on it would be like at a, for whatever number, like just using random numbers, like a 60
Okay.
out of 100.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's like what I considered killing when I started, twice as good as that is now what a bomb feels like to me.
Interesting. So it's not necessarily just the audience not really reacting. Maybe they are reacting to you, but they're not reacting to you as you
Yeah.
would hope that you get some sort of
Yep.
reaction out of them
Or
because
those, yeah,
the
I'm
joke
not
didn't
having,
work as well,
yep,
or
I'm
maybe
not
it
having the
was
best set. If I don't have
right.
the best set on the night,
I see
that
what you're saying.
for me, a lot of times, if I don't have the best set on the show, unless it's something where like everybody's crushing, if I don't have the best set on the show, I'm like, oh, I bombed. Because
So
to
it
me,
doesn't.
that is bombing.
So,
To me, that
so
is
it doesn't
bombing.
necessarily mean that someone is not. Because, like again, like I said, I'm going back to my perspective. It's just more like it's to me. It's simply bombing. Simply means that no one laughs. Get the fuck out of the room. This was awful. Stop. That's
Yeah.
to me is bombing. But to you, you're saying that I got a few laughs, but man, Chris did phenomenal. He got the
Yeah.
best laugh, and Mark did phenomenal too. He
Because
got a
it's all
huge
based
laugh.
on the room. So it's
Right.
like, so like if Chris comes in, just using him as an example, and he
Right.
destroys, I know the room can get to that point. So if I come in and I do pretty good, like I have to compare it to how good I was like, okay,
Okay,
like
I
it's
see.
like
I understand better now.
like the
Okay,
capacity of this crowd is
gotcha.
that. Like, and there's other nights where you go up and there's 2 audience members, and I don't even consider no laughs really a bomb, because it's just like because it's like I did an open mic Thursday and there was like 3 people paying attention, and they were laughing and chuckling and enjoying brand new jokes. But it did not feel bad to me compared to some shows when people are laughing the whole time, but I'm not doing as well as I think that I could do. I'm all about like, what's the best I can do in this situation, given the variables and like
Okay.
with the type of material. Like if I'm doing brand new material, my expectations are a little bit lower. So I'm going in with a more reasonable expectation of, oh, what I want to do with this, because I'm working on other things. But if I'm doing my best material and it's in a packed room
Mhm.
and I just kind of do pretty good, I'm like, fuck, why didn't I kill? Like, what am I like? If my best isn't killing in this room that's already kind of good, what am I even doing here?
Well, how often do you keep writing new materials? Do you do it every day, or is it just whenever you feel
Whenever
like
I
doing
have
it?
ideas, so it's like,
Okay.
and I do a lot of crowd work, so a lot of my jokes will come from me talking to an audience member and riffing, and then I'll be like, oh, that's something that I can take the wording of and change it and use it on stage. But I've got like every time I have a premise, I'll write it down, just like a 1 word thing for it, and then I get on stage and I usually write on stage. So like I'll riff on stage or just
Yeah.
try it out. Yeah,
You know,
that's my process.
I heard that Ronnie Dangerfield. I forgot what club this was at, but it was like one of those like it was more or less kind of like like an open mic type of situation where
Yeah,
I forgot what comedian was telling the story, but that comedian was saying that. So I saw Ronnie Dangerfield, who was a legend at that time. He was headliner. He does.
yeah,
He can walk into a room and sell it in a heartbeat. But when they were doing the open mics, he came out on stage and had like a bunch of cue cards in front of him, and he was just reading in front of it, in front of the crowd, and reading off these jokes and trying to see what the reaction was. And he'll hear that, okay, this one got really good, so he put it in this stack. Okay, this one didn't do very well, put it in that stack. And then by uh, later that evening, he was the headliner. All the jokes that he had told 3 4 hours ago that didn't work, he didn't tell. The ones that did work,
yeah,
he would just more or less kind of repeat and then formulate a much more cohesive
yep.
way of storytelling to to be able to tell the joke and deliver the punchline. So I mean, again, I understand the writing process is different for every comedian out there, but for you though, when you're testing it out, or when you're doing open mics, do
Yeah.
you have it already set in mind about what you want to tell, or do you have to have something in front of you
Uh,
to remember how to go about it, starting up the joke and delivering it?
it's so I just have like a bunch of different ideas of stuff that I want to work on. So like tonight, I'm doing 2 shitty open mics. Isn't the word for it? I'm doing because they're not shitty, but like because shitty is not
Yeah,
it. There's going to be
yeah.
2 where there's no guarantee that there will be an audience. Like 2 where it's like I'm there, and the pure reason I'm there is I need to try new things or try new wording. And I'm doing another one where it's like it's going to have a good crowd there, so I'm probably going to. It's more of like a unpaid showcase spot. There's like some of those in DC where you're doing 5 minutes, but you're getting a crowd and you're going to have to work hard, and you want to do well. You don't want to like fuck around. So for
Mhm.
the other 2 shows, I'm going to kind of fuck around, and I'll probably have I'll have a piece of paper that has like keywords written on it and it's usually, if I've got a 5 minute set, I'll write 8 to 10 things that I kind of want to work on down there, and I'll probably have time to do 3 of them. And I'll just kind of look, and I'll open with the one I want to do, and then how I'm feeling with this crowd. I'll look at the notebook real quick, pick one of the ones that's left, and then whatever until I'm done. And for the other one, it's like I'm going to go in. I've got 1 or 2 newer jokes that have already been kind of working pretty well, and I'm going to sandwich those in between jokes that I know are going to work or should work in front of that crowd. And so each show it has like a different feel to it. Like one will be fun, but maybe not well attended. So I'll do new stuff I'm excited about. There's another one that is probably not going to be well attended and won't be a lot of fun. So to make my own fun, I might do a little crowd work and try some really weird things that like I didn't think I would try. And then the third one will be like pretty good or finished material, trying to do as well as possible.
Do you find it difficult when you're writing new jokes that I don't necessarily believe that you're trying to top, trying to like top, you're like, okay, this one was killer. Now I have to do something better than that.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about how you think of writing the next show, because I can't imagine that every comedian is going to be out there to say, okay, this was the top joke for me. Now I gotta go bigger and better. Like how you would the movie. When you do one, you shoot a film, it did so well, now you gotta top
Yeah.
that. But in your perspective, do you have an approach about how you like to go about it when it comes to coming off a really high point with a certain set or a certain period of your time
Yeah.
in that part of your career, where you either trying to replicate that again, or you know what, that's said and done. Now it's started new, and let's just rebuild from there and
Yeah,
see what
it's
picks it up.
interesting. It's just what I like feel like doing. So like I've got some jokes where if someone was like, "Hey Winston, what are some of your favorite jokes of yours?" I could name off a few of them to where it's like, and I like them for different reasons. Like whether the take is so unique or you don't really see it's coming, or the length and the complexity of the bit. Like one of my favorite jokes that I've ever written, I wrote, I would say 3 years ago, and it's on my a version of it's on my album, but it's like it's a joke about arming teachers and giving teachers
Oh yeah, I
guns.
heard about that. Yeah, yeah,
And so like on the album, it's like a 5.5 minute bit, but
yeah,
there's a video where it's a 10 minute bit.
yeah.
And so it's like,
I've seen it. It was pretty good.
yeah. So like the complexity of that, of where like we're going and all these different things, that's a joke I'm very proud of. But then I've got another joke that was on the Asheville one. And it was like the second or third time I've done the Asheville one, but it's the joke about the getting vaccinated and telling your parents you're gay because of the vaccine.
Yeah.
But that's another joke that I'm proud of. But I don't sit down after that joke and be like, how do I write another joke just like that?
Right.
I just write stuff that I think's funny, and if the audience likes it, some of the jokes naturally kind of grow and change, and they become more complex or unique or different. And I enjoy those, but it kind of is like more of like a natural thing. Like I've got a few that I'm pretty proud of right now that I know I have some more work that needs to be done on.
So
them.
it's like a step-by-step process and a case-by-case scenario to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and if it builds a life on its own where the people react to it, then you're good. Well, so here's a question that I've actually wanted to ask. I meant to ask Chris, Glenn, and even Lloyd too, about where you did a joke that you thought wasn't really funny, but it killed. But you didn't like the joke because you didn't think it was very funny.
Yeah, I don't like do it.
Huh?
Yeah, there's times where like I'll have like a throwaway line and it will kill or something, and I'm just like, all right, well, I don't really know why that killed, and so I have to either figure out if it killed because it's hacky, or did it kill because it's really good, or if there's a joke that destroys but I'm not happy with the point of view or whatever, I will try to change the point of view and keep those laughs. But I'm also like, I'm not going to do things on stage that I don't at least kind of think are funny. Like there's some things I do that I don't think are funny as other ones, but it's like the joy I get from the audience really enjoying it, and especially if it's something that sets me up to where I can do another joke I really, really, really like. Yeah. Like when I'm doing super clean shows, I have some jokes that I don't do anywhere but clean shows that were like jokes about living at home and jokes about growing up and like stuff where it's like, I don't really want to do these in a club, but like for a clean show, people really love it.
So they're not jokes basically.
Yeah. And they're not bad jokes. They're not hacky. They're not unoriginal. They're just not. If you were like, hey, Winston, I need you to do 30 minutes, they're jokes that would not be in those 30 minutes if I have no content restrictions and stuff like that. So everything has a place. And my thing is like, I don't ever want to say something on stage that I'm just like, I feel sick about afterwards, or I'm like mad at myself for doing afterwards.
Do you ever, because I know you do, you have meet and greets after you do your set, but do you ever ask an audience about their opinion? Hey, how do you think the set went for you? How do you think the set went? Did you like everything that I said, or do you ask questions like that to them, or
no? Because people will just them?
Right. That's what I'm curious. Yeah,
it's I don't give a fuck what an audience like. I know I can tell from being on stage how the set went, and so asking one person, I might just get like one person. And here's the thing. So people are going to give you their opinion on your set anyway, and it's annoying. It's annoying as shit.
What kind of opinions are they giving you that would kind of irk you for yourself?
I did like a show once, and I did like 40 minutes, and I was destroying. And there was one, and it's like a room of, it's like a country club, so it's like all middle-aged white people. And then like I was like, I know you guys don't like millennials, and they clapped, and so like I was like, yeah. I was like, but if you guys don't like millennials, it's like you guys just have to remember, we're your fault. Like it's like you raised, like if nothing, we're a reflection of your parenting skills. And like so that got a laugh from most people, but a lady was like not happy with it because I guess her son's a piece of shit or something, and so she does blame her.
Oh yeah, it's on your YouTube channel that stand up, right?
Yeah, I guess so. There's like a bunch of I've done several ones. I don't know if it's that one, but a lady was like, I think it was that same venue, but it's a different show. I've done 2 shows there, so it
Okay.
is the one you're talking about, but it was the
Yeah.
previous one. And then afterwards, the lady comes up and she goes, I loved everything you did,
Yeah.
except for that. She goes, except for that part about us being boomers.
Her
Like, you need
husband
to
was
go.
there too, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
just something like
Yeah.
that. It was like I liked everything but that, and I was like, and after the show, I was like, man, that is so rude of you to say that to me. And she's like, what? I said, just think about what you just said. Instead of talking about the 99% of what I did I liked, you pointed out the one thing you didn't enjoy and tried to hurt my feelings. And she was like, oh my God, I am so sorry. And I was like, yeah, you should think about that. It's like, that's a rude thing to say to somebody. It's just like, it's not constructive to be like,
Right. Yeah.
I didn't like this one thing after you told me you loved everything but that. And it's like, okay, you didn't like it. You didn't like that one thing. Everyone else enjoyed it. I don't know what to tell you. I'm a comedian. Everyone else loved it.
Right.
But stuff like that where it's like, I don't need to hear that. I knew in that moment the way that woman reacted when I was talking to her on stage. She did not enjoy that.
Right.
I've already gotten that. The feedback I'm getting is I can see everybody's face. I can read everybody's body language. All right.
Yeah.
If the lights are up or you're sitting somewhere where the comic can see you, we see everybody's faces and we're actively taking notes about who's liking it. Why might they not like it? The only time I want an audience's like constructive opinion is there are times where I'll be doing new jokes at the end of a show, and I'll be like, well, I'll ask them, why did you not like that joke? What about that joke did you not like? And sometimes you'll get good feedback in the moment, but that's me making a decision to get it. The only thing I want to hear from audience members is, oh, you were great. I loved it. Thank you so much. We enjoyed it. Like, I don't need to have you tell me why you thought it wasn't a very good, like why you didn't like this one specific joke, because I already know why you don't like that joke. You don't like that joke because you either didn't get it or it felt a little too personal to you. Or like for that one lady's case, I could tell the way she was talking to me when I said the line about like, it's your fault, you raised us. She internalized that, and she probably has a child that is not exactly what she imagined her child to be. And she probably has some insecurities that it's her fault, where it's like, I'm making a joke. You guys talk about how, like, they were talked about how, like, we got participation trophies. And it's like, yeah, guess who gave them to us?
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't go to the damn trophy shop.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't go to the trophy shop and get that made after the sporting event. I wanted to go to get pizza. It was your choice to give me a trophy for participation. I never asked for a trophy.
Yeah.
And now you're complaining about the participation. So like, I know that there's a lot of internalization and projecting, and I can tell, but I would say that, like, I'll be honest with you, man. I was like, that happens. I don't know, maybe every other show I'll have one person say something, and it's just like, but that's who I'm thinking about. Like, that one person can ruin how I feel about my entire set, because then I start to internalize, like, oh, if she felt that way, did other people feel that way? But it's like, no, I have to tell myself in the moment, I'm pretty self-aware. I know when I'm doing well. I know when the joke is good. And if someone has an issue with the joke, they don't understand the joke. Like, that's just what it is. I don't purposely write things that are hurtful or mean. And I usually am a pretty good sport about making fun of myself. And I don't ever really push the envelope to a point where I'm going to be hurting people's feelings, because that's just not the type of comedian that I am. But it's just like, if you're an audience member at a comedy show and you've got anything to say other than we really enjoyed your show, shut the fuck up. We do not care. We do not care. Yeah. I don't care. There's nothing. Just like, dude, like, this isn't a fucking restaurant. Like, I'm not making you a personal pizza. It's like, I'm making this thing. This is just it. And you either like it or you don't. Your laughter or not laughing lets me know whether or not you like it.
Yeah.
Like, it's, and I see everybody's face, but I can tell you right now, if anyone out there who listens to this has ever had a single thought of telling a comedian you didn't like their joke, we do not care at all. Move on. Do something different. We don't give a shit. You're not doing anything but making us hate you. Just go home and tell people you didn't like that joke. I don't need to hear it.
I do want to just say in closing here for you that I was looking forward to this conversation because I love the first conversation we had. I really thought it was insightful. But I mentioned beginning earlier, more or less before we officially started, if you will. But that conversation with you really changed my perception about how to really ask questions that
Okay.
may not seem like it's not a big deal. They're just general questions, but it deals with a heavy subject matter. But I get it. It's worth talking about.
Yeah.
But I never took in consideration really about the ramifications of maybe just simply answering that question that could potentially do some damage along the way.
Yeah.
So I understand that perspective now, and quite honestly, after that conversation I mentioned before, it changed how I look at questioning things without really, trying to, cause any problems. That's what I'm trying. Is what I'm trying to say here. So, if anything, because of you, that you have really helped in how I look at things slightly differently when it comes to questioning things. So, if anything,
Cool,
I should
man.
say thank you for that. And I
No,
really
man.
do.
Yeah,
want
thanks
to say
for.
that.
I appreciate you having me. Yeah, it's just the type of thing where it's like when you're talking about that, it's like you have to be
Yeah.
very specific about what you should
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit less loose and light. And this is more like, oh, we'll talk about the MMA. And I'm like, yeah, I can misspeak and say I think the MMA is fucking stupid and dumb and it doesn't affect me. It's not going to affect my life.
Right.
Like, and I think that's just what it is. It's just
Yeah.
I when it's a serious topic, I like to make sure that
Right.
people know my actual stance before I'm like gonna joke about it or do anything. It's like, hey, you should
Yeah.
know this is what I believe. Because
I almost feel like I should probably be flipped around.
Yeah, I know, right?
To like, hey, let's talk about goofy shit. Then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
let's talk about some hard hitting.
No,
shit
I
right
liked
now.
it, man. I think
Yeah.
I enjoyed both conversations. So.
Yeah, I did too. All right, well, so for the cameras here, we're just gonna go ahead and close it off. But otherwise, like I said before, you're always welcome to come back, and I
Thanks,
love
man.
having this conversation with you. But
This was great.
yeah, all right, let's close this off here.